Let's
Right.
start there.
Start.
Is it time to actually start?
I guess it is.
Yeah.
It is time to
Yep.
start.
We're here now, you can start.
All right.
Oh, very good.
Okay,
Thanks.
great,
We were
great,
waiting.
We were waiting for them.
So-
Otherwise, we're gonna have to start over.
All right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right, which side do you want to start from?
I'm gonna start with you.
All right, yeah. Sean Slimak, writer, director. I had one of my short films was a part of the horror short block last night, and yeah, I've been on a bunch of panels this year, so I've seen a lot of you before already. But yeah, this panel I'm looking forward to discussing just what it takes to really try to produce an independent film, because there's a lot that goes into that. So.
Hi, I'm Serena Coterius. I am a writer, director, and producer. I've directed feature film, I've directed several shorts, and now vertical microdrama. I work in vertical microdrama as well. And the short / vertical microdrama that I recently directed is actually in the science fiction block this year. It's called She Fell from Space. So my background is I got into producing because I didn't want to be in other people's low budget movies. I wanted to do my own. I was like, damn it. And I also had a background in producing and web development, so I understood kind of what it took. And now I have gotten more developed as a producer. I understand a lot of the legality and things like that as we keep rolling into this new venture. So,
Awesome. I am Chuck Woodrow. I am the director of the JedCon Film Festival. I've been doing this for about 16 years now, so yes, I am a glutton for punishment. And I have done independent film for 20 or 30 years. And I started off mainly as a sound man, done a little bit of directing, and have been involved in just about every facet of film. Because as a small independent filmmaker, you wear hats, every hat, whether you're good at them or not. And I'll be moderating and throwing my 3 cents in every once in a while. I think probably the best thing to do is, where did you get started?
I actually started in acting. I started acting when I was 5. I started professionally acting when I was 16. And I was in a lot of indie movies. And actually, I started writing for projects for myself. And then I got asked to direct a piece of an anthology movie. And that just kind of exploded into more directing. But I always loved film, always wanted to be in film. When I was like 9, I wrote Universal Studios like that was going to happen. But yeah, so I actually have an acting background.
Awesome. John?
Yeah, so, growing up, I was always really into film. When I was just about done with high school, I really wanted to go to a film school, but I never did that. I ended up not going to college for a long time. I jumped right into manufacturing. I was working at a factory for a while, and then I got into EHS, Environmental Health and Safety, at this factory, and other facilities too. And then that kind of became what I went to college for, and I got my bachelor's of science in. But last year, well, actually a couple years ago, I started writing again. I've always been writing throughout my life, but I wrote a short in 2024, and then I started going to these networking events in Chicago, because I live in the suburbs of Chicago. So I was going to these events, and I was kind of not really shopping around my script, but I was kind of trying to be like, hey, I've got a script, I would love if somebody here would want to film it, because at that point I'm like, okay, I'm writing. And then I realized everybody there is a writer and director, so I was like, okay, I'll just make it myself. So last March, I filmed my first short film, and then since then I've done 3, and I'm working on 2 at the end of this month. And a buddy of mine actually wrote a script that I told him I'd direct for him too in September. So since I got going, I'm just continuing to go and learn, and it's been great. It's also been great to see it from the outside of not like any official training or education, just learning by doing. And I really appreciate that element of it.
And I feel like most independent filmmakers kind of follow sort of that path, right? Of no one's going to make my film, so I'm going to make my film, and that ends up putting us directly into that producer's slot, whether we accepted the title or not. We'll say we're the writer, we'll say we're the director, but who's actually putting all those pieces together that's your producers, right?
And you have to be, even if you're a writer, by the way, when it comes to pitching and selling your projects, you have to know a lot of that aspect, because if you try to pitch a project that is gonna be a nightmare to shoot, or it's gonna balloon out the budget, you're in trouble. They're not gonna pick up your project, you're not gonna get funding, you know? So you absolutely have to know some of that when you're going into it.
And I kind of followed a lot of the same course you did. I did a lot of film networking. In fact, I ran the Indiana Filmmakers Network for about 7 years. And we had huge meetings, and we did spreading all across the state. And I'm actually really proud of the group that took over the reins after I moved to Florida. And you know, they've turned it into a nonprofit, and it's going really well. So networking with anybody and everybody. I remember a guy that came up to me and said, okay, I need a sound guy. I'm like, great, okay, Brian, I'll be your sound guy. And then we showed up well, as we were loading out to go on location, and he had rented all of this equipment. And I'm like, why didn't you just send out an email saying you needed this equipment? I could have made 2 phone calls and gotten you most of this for free. And, you know, and of course all that would go to the catering budget after that, right?
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, it's one of those where the networking, you typically need to work with what you have. And if you have a strong network, you have a lot more. And I don't know what your experience has been along those lines, but that's what I've seen. So when you went to produce your first film, kind of walk us through that stage and how that.
A series of unfortunate events. Look, I at least knew going into it that I didn't have a lot of money, so I was going to need to limit what we were going to do, and we were going to guerrilla shoot. So I picked shooting in parks. We location scouted, but we were very smart about how we did this. And we shot in homes that we had access to. And we built the script around that. And it was an anthology feature. So if anybody's like, oh my God, a feature, split it up. Make an anthology feature, because that makes it a little bit easier to do, especially if you change up the locations and whatnot. But when I started doing that, I was like, I don't have any budget. So unfortunately, this movie's gonna have too few dragons. So I'm gonna have to play this vanilla. And we're going to have to get really interesting with how we go about doing this to make sure that it's visually good as well. So I got lucky enough to at least work with a very gifted DP on that feature. But yeah, first they will always tell you, start with what you have, and then put the call out to people and be like, hey, you know, buy nothing groups are great for that. Hey, you got a location that I can use? But if you do that, make sure A, they own that location, and B, you have the appropriate paperwork. Please do that. You're gonna need that for later. But I think that that's what allowed me to do it. And then I we co-directed the feature film that won Idlewild Best Picture. And me and another friend split the work on that. We both produced and directed our pieces, and we wrote together in tandem. So we were pretty on the same page with what our limitations were. In fact, I think, oh God, I'm on camera for this, so I'm in trouble. But we actually he shot one of his sections in a defunct, I don't know, it was a grocery store parking lot. They closed it off after he used it to shoot, but got away with it. Yeah, so I highly recommend, especially for locations, you go and you scout the heck out of it. You have a limited amount of crew, and you are very polite, and you do not get in anybody's way, and they will leave you alone. And that's really, really important. And don't shoot anywhere that's like heavily, with tons of people. Definitely try to pick other things. But that I at least knew, so that's why our main story in that feature film was around the city that I lived in at the time. Unfortunately, that was part of the 2025 Los Angeles fires, which is Altadena. And we were able to shoot a lot of locations around there. Altadena, for those of you who don't know, it was a primary location to shoot things at in Los Angeles. They lost over 350 locations when our city burned. And they lost even more because the Palisades was also a huge place. So I think that looking at places that are low key, because again, I'm in Los Angeles. I don't know where you're located.
Illinois.
Illinois, okay. In Los Angeles, shooting is a different beast because everybody knows that you're part of the film industry and they're going to try to get money out of you. So it's always good to go outside of Los Angeles to try and pick your locations. And so we did that. We got a restaurant. And how we did that is I just went and talked to the gentleman. I said, hey, you know, we'd really love to shoot out here. Could we, you know, bump you by putting you in the movie and saying we got, you know, your restaurant? He's like, oh yeah, no, that'd be great. They gave us, the characters were eating gelato, they gave us the gelato. And so I would say always ask. Always ask. You have no idea what someone will say yes to until you ask, but don't assume they won't say yes.
And you may have to ask several,
Yes.
but somebody's going to say yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I loved what you were saying, how you did that kind of compilation feature film, which is really a series of shorts that have a common theme or a thread to them. And I've had quite a few of those show here. And it's interesting that there's some groups that will submit the short, and then a couple years later, they will submit the feature that had that short as part of it. And making a feature is a marathon. You really have to pace yourself. Doing a short, that's a sprint. And you can run and gun those, right? But a feature, you're going to come back to those locations, or a true feature. You're going to come back to those locations over and over again. So you need to make sure that when you secure those locations, you secure the permission to come back in 6 months to do the pickup shots. Like the editor said, you know, you really needed this. Or we didn't get it because it started raining that night, right? So walk us through your first experience.
So my first short, Connection at the End of the World, we did it, and I'm a big fan of guerrilla filmmaking because one of my favorite, probably my favorite director, even though none of his movies are in my top 10, is Werner Herzog.
Oh,
And he is,
Uncle Vern.
yeah, and he is all about, especially earlier in his career, guerrilla filmmaking. Like he straight up was out there by the Amazon, lying about permits to the countries just so you could film there. Stuff that I do not recommend.
Don't do
but
it. Don't do it.
If you do want to do guerrilla filmmaking, don't get caught, but just be smart about it, you know. And for my first short, we didn't film in the restaurant, but we were outside of a restaurant because the two leads, they come out of a restaurant when there's an announcement, and I talked to the restaurant and they were completely down with it. They just wanted it credited in the credits, and I'm like, yeah, that's boom, that's easy. And the rest of it was guerrilla because we were just walking down a couple blocks in the downtown suburb of Lombard, Illinois, if anybody is even familiar over there. But so we just did it guerrilla style like that, and you know, we didn't get bothered or anything. So we could have gotten lucky because I mean, cop could have went by and been like, do you have a permit to be shooting this? You know, it's one of those things where if you want to do guerrilla, be open to the consequences of, you know, if you don't have a permit and other things, because that could definitely happen.
Well, and learn the rules of your area.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Obviously, Los Angeles area and most of California, you can't do anything without a permit.
Yeah, and you have to be very careful about that if you're doing a feature. So this doesn't happen so much with shorts, although now there's starting to be more places to distribute shorts.
Mhm.
But this happens more with features where you have to have appropriate documentation to get a distributor. So sometimes, depending, you know, like if you're gonna do something that blows up like Obsession, you better have permits. You better have that stuff airtight because they'll come for you if it's not. So for us, it's a little art house experimental feature. We know we're not gonna get in trouble, but I would say just kind of have some backup plans on what you're gonna do and where it's gonna go, because that's really important on the producing side. You want to know where you're going to distribute this to. What are your options? And in order to do that, in order to have the best possible options, you want to have appropriate paperwork. So,
Yeah. And it's not just, we've talked a lot about location, but when you talk about paperwork, you have to have releases for literally every person and everything in your film. The music, like again, the extras, the backgrounds.
chain of title documentation.
Yes, yes, you have to have all of that, because if you go to sell your work, which is what we're in this for in the long run, is, yes, we love making movies. But if you want to make money at making movies, you have to have your documentation in place, or the distributors will walk away because they do not want to incur the legal costs of someone that had a pizzeria that was in the background saying, I didn't like how my film, my business was represented in this zombie movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
under a certain budget level, you'll probably be okay. But like, once you start going, like, when I set up session, what is that,
Yeah.
700,000, 800,000?
Yeah, 750,000.
Yeah, so that, once you get in the hundreds of thousands, then you definitely want to be a lot more buttoned up. But if you're shooting a feature, which a lot of us have done, like my feature was 15K. So if you're shooting a feature for somewhere around there, like under 100,000, you're usually in the okay zone. They'll still take you. You probably still end up on Film Hub. But once you start going up, then you really got to start getting that paperwork a lot more tight.
Yeah.
And that's where that budget ends up going to once you start, once you're allotted like 100,000, $1 million, whatever, a big chunk of that is, the expectation is for permits and everything else. And a quick thing about locations is when I was filming Volatile, the short that played yesterday, for the outside scenes, we had this great location. It was a forest preserve in Cook County, Illinois, which is really, really stingy about stuff. But at first we were gonna just guerrilla, right? We were gonna go in it guerrilla style and just do what we were gonna do. And then one of the leads, she was kind of like, well, what if we get caught? Like, will we get in trouble? And I was like, okay, that's a great point. Let me follow the proper channels and reach out to them. Well, when I did that, then the forest preserve or whatever, whoever was overseeing that, it was gonna cost like over $100 an hour to shoot there. And then I was just like, damn, really? And I think it could have been for free if we were like student filmmakers or something.
Yeah.
But like, I'm getting old, like I can't pass for like 18 years old, you know?
Just say you're in grad school.
Yeah, oh, right, yeah.
I did
Yeah,
my master's.
Yeah.
right, yeah, I started late, you know?
Yeah.
Just take a
But,
English comp class and they give you a.
hey, there you go.
Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's something else to keep in mind, if you want to go the right route, you know, do the right thing, which everybody should do. I just personally like to do the Werner Herzog thing sometimes, but just know that you do the right thing and you're not going to have a good response. And you're going to be like, oh shit, now I got to
Yeah,
find a
they're
different place to go.
They're gonna grind you, or they're gonna vet you a
Yeah.
little bit. They're gonna pressure you and gonna say, okay, what is this? How much do you have your shit together? How much
Yeah.
are you gonna do?
Probably the biggest thing on locations that I've seen, especially when you're talking with private individuals, you know,
Mhm.
business owners, that sort of thing, is they want to make sure that you have insurance so they're not liable
Mhm.
if somebody gets injured for you doing
Mhm.
something stupid on set, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure you get that together. And you can get a blanket insurance that could cover all your projects for
Mhm.
a year for not a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, and We Make Movies also is another program. It's based in Los Angeles, but you can sign up outside of Los Angeles, and they do insurance.
Yeah.
And they do low insurance for like just a couple days, and they're very accessible to a lot of people.
So areas around
WeMakeMovies.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
areas around major metropolitan areas like Los Angeles and Chicago, you're going to have to get permits for just about anywhere you're going to shoot. Here in Indiana, it's almost a no permit state.
Advertisement.
In fact, you can shoot anywhere in Indianapolis except for on state property without a permit, which means if you go over here to Monument Circle, you can shoot on the sidewalk across from the circle, but if you step foot onto the monument,
Then you're in state.
then you're on state property and you had to have a permit.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
So we'll be shooting here
And
next
of
time.
course, right. And of course, always check with your local film office because
Yeah.
they will know that, right?
Absolutely.
And again, if you wanted to shoot in a state park close to Illinois, you could come over into Indiana. We shot a short at the Indiana Dunes.
Oh, nice,
It looked like a beautiful beach. We went there just a week or so after school had gotten back in session, so there was nobody there. The Department of Natural Resources guys met us when we got there. We arranged that we were coming. And they took all of our equipment and put it on the back of their 6-wheeled Gators and drove it out to the site on the beach. At about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they radioed us back, say, hey, are you ready for us to come pick up your stuff?
Oh, wow.
And they picked it up and moved it all back to our trucks. Yes, we got sand in everything. But
Have careful
it
lenses.
was a great experience. And all that, again, was if you choose the right locations, you actually can get by with a lot of stuff for a lot less money because you don't have to do the permits. You still want to get the sign off for those locations, right? And boy, I've done so many run and gun things in the back.
Yeah,
Another big thing is run and gun. If you have weapons involved at all,
It's gonna be a lot
Ooh,
harder.
be very, very careful.
be very, very careful.
Yeah.
And I always say, there's no reason for an actual live firearm to ever be on a set when there's so many beautiful replicas out there that can't be fired, right?
Yep.
That's my personal opinion. It just
Especially
makes
now,
sense.
after everything that's
Yeah,
happened.
after everything that's happened. But always inform the local police department
Yep.
before you go out and shoot. And make sure you tell them what times you'll be there. And if you go over that time, understand they may have a shift changeover that's not aware of what's going on. So be very, very cognizant of that if you've got firearms out where people can see them. Because you will have half a dozen squad cars that show up, which may add some production value, but not exactly the.
Yeah.
I actually know of a set that recently had that happen.
And it happens
In
often.
Santa
I've been
Clarita.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like that, and just to kind of pop on that front, whoever you're talking to, if you do have to have security or, there is security, highly recommend bring in some Starbucks cards, bring in some gifts, some thank yous. That's gonna go a long way. The other aspect to that, the reason why I mentioned earlier about make sure you know who the actual owner is. Because this is not my story, but this was a story on another panel that I just learned about, and I'm going to share the word. This was a huge, big studio production. They painted this massive mural on a wall. They thought they got the correct clearance, they had the signatory and everything. Turns out it wasn't the owner. That mural, which cost them, I think, $10K to make, cost them $50,000 because they had to keep it because they couldn't lose the weeks of having already made that. So they basically got,
Please.
Yep, they got fleeced. So careful if you're doing it in an Airbnb or something like that, careful, because if you are shooting it and they know and they recognize it and it goes anywhere, you could get in trouble because if you didn't get appropriate licenses for that. So as far as, but again, you'll probably be fine if it's really, really low budget. Like, again, a short film, you don't have to be as...
Yeah, the odds of them actually ever seeing it, let alone.
Yeah, they probably won't even recognize it. And if they do, leave them a nice present when you shoot there. It goes far. To be nice to someone goes so far, and the other aspect about this, when you're utilizing location, be very careful. In professional location companies, they will do things like put things on the edges of the walls so that when you're putting equipment in and out, you're not hitting it, you're not messing it up. So be very, very careful because damages do happen. It occurs on professional shoots all the time. I know of a producer who just started doing this. A fancy house that is getting ready to sell or is selling, but it's going to sit on the market a while. Go to that realtor, ask if you can rent it. A lot of times the furniture is theirs. They own the furniture. It's not even rented furniture. So that kind of lowers the liability of if something happens to that furniture. That's what's being done right now in Los Angeles. So learn from us.
Yeah.
And if you use Airbnb or Vrbo, I was first AD on a set earlier this year, and the director had reached out and was communicating with the wife of the property and was very clear on what the expectation was, and they were going to be filming there. But the husband of the property showed up, like while we were there, he showed up, went in the house, looking around, taking pictures. He was pissed, but there was like a lack of communication there between those two. And there were some things I think that they found after the shoot was done, because I think the tape that the crew was using, they didn't use the right tape. So like when they were taking off bags,
Oh, no.
it was like, ripping, because we put black bags in the windows outside so we
Yeah.
could shoot in the day for night. But they used the wrong tape, so there was a bunch of stuff, and I know the owner was really pissed. Luckily, I was already offset by the time these conversations were really happening, but I think a good thing, I wouldn't use this as a crutch, but Vrbo and Airbnb offer insurance for when you do rent. So when stuff does happen and they complain about you staying at the property, most of that should be covered as long as you didn't destroy the place. Like if it's minor stuff, like little minor damage, like from tape or something, like I'm sure it's fine, but if you go in somewhere and you screw it up really bad, I'm not gonna say that the Vrbo Airbnb insurance is gonna cover that, but you do have that potential. But like, please communicate with everybody who owns that property.
Yeah,
Be
communication.
clear.
Communication is everything.
Like
And
if
try to document it if
yes,
possible.
yes,
Yeah.
like communicate, document that communication.
Yeah.
So if they come back to you or they try getting you in trouble for something else, be like, hey, this is what happened. Document the process you're doing there while you're filming. Make sure you take before and after photos. Cover your butt, because yeah, like we mentioned before, especially if something blows up, I mean, someone could come for you to try to get something out of it. So
Yeah.
just it's all about understanding the insurance side of it and consequences, and
Yeah.
trying to account for all of that liability.
Yeah, insurance is something that most independent filmmakers don't do well. And in the end, it can completely ruin your ability to make future films. I don't know that I would trust the Airbnb insurance to cover you because you were doing something commercial at a place that was supposed to be for a
Yeah.
personal rental thing. If there
As long
was
as they don't
something
find out
major
it's commercial,
and they
yes.
looked at it, they'd say,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
They'd say no. If it's something minor, yeah, they'd probably just ignore it and go on.
Right.
But again, you should have liability coverage for all of your projects just for that. Because again, somebody slips and falls.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if somebody gets injured, that's the
Yeah,
whole thing.
trips over a C-stand, right?
It's happened a bunch of times.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we have sandbags.
That actors asking actors to do things without stunt coordinators.
Without a stunt coordinator.
As an actor, I experienced that a lot. I don't do that to my actors, but were there some things that I look back on now? I'm like, oh, you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I think we've covered locations really well.
Yeah.
And we've touched on this in other panels, but financing.
Yeah.
And then with financing, I think it also goes back to what can you beg, borrow, or steal, right? Okay, maybe not steal.
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about actually. Working with
I'll
clients.
talk first because I'm not as experienced with financing, being like the real small dog that I am in this. But for me, a lot of it, I mean, most of it's just out of pocket. Like the first short I did, I did make sure to pay the two actresses. I paid them a little over like the SAG rate for budget. I'm not SAG or anything, but I feel like they provide a really good framework. If you want to do things by the book. SAG-AFTRA really shows you a good way to do it, but for me it was always out of pocket. I get lucky that I have a really well-paying job at my day job, but also kind of unlucky that I have a 6-year-old at home, which complicates finances a little bit because you don't have a lot to spend. But and I'm sure most of you know this. My other shorts that I've worked on, like everybody's like doing it for free, so. That's something that, unfortunately, and it sucks asking people for unpaid work, especially being in LA. I'm sure when people see unpaid work in LA, they're like, what are you doing here? But out here it's a little more acceptable, but I'm just really transparent. Like, I would love to pay, but, sometimes it's not always viable. So, just a lot of it's just out of pocket, and then people just doing it volunteering. and it sucks because you want to be able to get paid for all this, and you want the people you're working with to get paid, but you just gotta do it for the love of the game sometimes, you know.
There's still, I mean, we still have people who will do things for no pay in Los Angeles. It's kind of an exchange. You have to negotiate and say, hey, what do you want out of this? You know, what are you getting? And we have really amazing film schools in Los Angeles, and a lot of film school people who just want experience on set. That is a huge place to go to and get people to add crew members onto set. Now, that being said, you add crew members, you better add budget for food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to make sure you're feeding people well. But as long as you're giving them a really good experience, we had a couple of PAs on She Fell from Space, and they were wonderful. They were fantastic. And I think that they also, we set up a exchange with the university that we were working with, in that we brought both PAs back to walk them through how we did special effects in post. So they got the experience on set, they got credit. I immediately credited them on IMDb, and then I made sure that they came back and they got questions and they talked about their movies, and you know, they had us as a resource. So you want to just make sure that if you aren't paying people, people are getting what they want out of it, out of that project. So it still happens, we still do it, and I think that that's something you can absolutely do. On the big kid side of financing, that is a beast that I am currently going through on a few projects right now. One of the things I can tell you, if you are going to do something like a feature, get in touch with a sales agent sooner than later, because those people have connections to financiers, and they have insight into what people are funding, what people want to fund right now, and it'll kind of give you an idea as to if your project kind of fits in there or not. Or they just might know somebody. They're like, hey, you know, I got a doctor, they really want to fund a movie. Okay, let's finance on that. And some of those people are not so worried about getting their money back versus professional investors, where they do want their money back, and you do have to prove ROI, or return on investment. So that's something that I would highly recommend, that I didn't know when I got into my feature, that I know now. That's really important. Also, no, again, I had said this before, and I cannot say this enough, know where it is going. What is the aim for this thing that you are producing? Like, if the aim is, hey, I just want to do the idea and I want to be creative, beautiful. If the aim is, hey, I want to be in a genre festival,
Right.
make sure that you're keeping that in mind. You know, maybe introduce yourself to Chuck, you know, say, hey, I'm working on this, hey, how's it going? I'm this person, I'm not this, you know, anonymous person on the internet, I'm a real person. Because that's going
And
to...
that just shocked me when I found out you actually were a real person.
Yeah, right, I know. Not just this AI bot submitting movies, which, wait for that to happen. Anyway, but I think that it's important to also know, because even if you have a short film, you want to know what festivals you're going to submit to. And I cannot emphasize this enough. There's so many now after COVID. Like, now we had a low point, now we're having tons, and there's so many scams. Like, so many scam festivals, guys. So I think that it's really important that you have an aim, not just to submit to every single prestige festival. First off, screw those guys. Second off, you want to narrow down, like, what kind of movie did you make? Where is it going to show well?
When you're looking at festivals, look at what else is showing at those festivals, what has won awards at those festivals. Does your film match that, both in the genre, budgets, or production value? Not the same thing. And if it doesn't, look for a different festival, no matter how much people say this particular festival is great. It's not the festival for your product. If you want to make a film for that festival, great. But always know that you have a home, a home somewhere for your film, because there are so many different festivals.
There are.
There's not a lot of genre festivals like festivals,
No.
right? And most mainstream festivals won't touch these films for anything. We have some amazing film festivals here in Indianapolis. The Heartland Film Festival is Oscar nomination territory.
Well, those ones I have a whole
Yeah.
rant on those ones.
And they show some really, really beautiful films. They don't show our films. And if someone was to submit their films to me, I wouldn't show their films, even though they are beautiful films, and they probably have some really good high-name actors in them, because they don't meet our genre requirements. So part of your budget, after you've built the film, right, you've paid your people that you're gonna pay, you've fed the people that need to get fed, always feed them, not just pizza.
Just pizza, please, guys.
Have a part of your budget set aside for distribution, whether that's actual going to the American Film Market to actually sell it, or to put it out into film festivals. Because, and to treat that as a serious part of the budget, not just, hey, it would be fun to go to Sundance, so I'm gonna be one of the 100,000 films that get submitted to Sundance. You won't get in. Unless you're invited to Sundance, you probably will not get in.
No, 99% of them are curated, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't even watch them.
Yeah, so don't get, I've made the mistake of, when I first got onto Film Freeway, which is where all these submissions
Yeah.
take place, you see a bunch of things, you wanna submit to it, and then you realize, oh crap, a lot of these are scams or whatever, and, I guess it's good to recognize the festivals that actually play them in front of an audience.
Yeah, that's a huge
Because there's this thing called, I call it laurel hunting, where you'll submit to a festival that's just online, which in my opinion means that,
It's pay to play, yeah.
yeah, it's pay to play. It looks great just to have some extra laurels on your poster, and I've done that too in the past, but especially with Volatile, my first real genre short film, I'm really more interested in having it play for an audience instead, and instead of trying to get some sort of laurels from something, because that's I see laurels from places in Bangkok or other countries, and like I said, I don't knock people for just getting these certificates that they could put out there, but it's gonna waste more money because you're not really gonna. The only thing you're getting is just making your poster look prettier, right?
Yeah.
You're really not earning anything
In
from
some
doing
cases,
that.
just makes your poster look cluttered.
Yeah, it's
Right,
just-
yeah, people will put a
Too
whole
many.
bunch.
It's too many.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
and I think just to kind of write on that, the major things you want to look for is does it play in person? Does it play in person past the first year? Because that's another thing that happens. They'll do it in person the first year,
Oh, and then
they'll
all
move
online.
it online right after. There was one that actually is more well known. I'm not going to say it for liability purposes, but they have.
Tell me off camera.
I won't. They have a festival, and they're like, oh yeah, we're in person. But then they won't take it, and then they'll shove you over to a distributor who's kind of a junk distributor. They're gonna take your project, and then they're just gonna sit on it. It's not gonna go anywhere. So that's apparently their work. That's how they do that. Yeah, those are other ones. Ones reaching out to you that you're like, who the hell is this?
Yes.
Ones that sound like other festivals. That's a whole thing right now.
The World Film Festival at Cannes.
Yes, that
or
one.
Cannes Indie Film
Film Fair,
Awards
yeah,
or whatever.
uh-huh.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah.
And oh my God, if you have an account on Film Freeway for your films, you're gonna get emails all the freaking time. And I'll be honest, if I get an email and someone's like, "Here's a waiver for you to do it for free," sometimes I'll be like, "Sure," submit it for free because it doesn't cost anything, and maybe someone sees it after verifying that it isn't just a complete yeah, a lot of these AI festivals are probably ran by AI, honestly. They
Yeah,
just
or
have them
they're
completely
Or they're
they just-
definitely using them. But there's some even in person. We got hooked on one for the feature. It was an in-person festival. Here's what happened. Again, I'm not going to say which one it is after camera when we'll talk.
Yes,
give
me a list. I need it. I
I will
need that.
for
I need to
features
know.
I've got. So basically, they got all these movies. We were all legit, and they were like, oh yeah, we're gonna have an awards ceremony. and you're nominated as one of the awards. They told a whole bunch of us we were nominated. So we go and we show up, and I look at the area we're in. We're like, kind of like in this warehouse. And I'm like, what is going on here? And we show up and they have like, you know, food and stuff like that. They have a massive LED screen. And what do? And AI announces the awards on there. But it doesn't even announce like who got nominated or anything like that. It just announces the awards, and they had handpicked whoever they had wanted to, but they wanted some people in the audience to show up. So they told everybody, you are nominated and you had a chance at winning this. And they did it, you know, all for the social media because they live streamed it. So, you know, you're gonna run into that. Don't feel bad. we've all gotten hit by it, and they're getting better at figuring out this stuff. The whole purpose of that award, by the way, was to advertise their LED screen for productions.
Nice.
Um,
There's always
but-
a catch.
Oh yeah,
Always.
yeah. No, they were like, oh come. We watched a little commercial before the award show, and that's basically what it was
That's
for.
fun. So when you are using Film Freeway, like say if you've got an account, you're getting emails, the way that works from our side. the
Oh yeah, right.
film
Yeah, yeah,
festivals,
true.
This is
Yeah, yeah.
important.
Like, this is great
Okay.
perspective. Yeah.
They don't get your contact information from Film Freeway unless they pay for it to Film Freeway. So that should be a red alert that they are actively paying Film Freeway to get lists of films and filmmakers.
Which means they're.
Which means they
profiting.
For the money.
expect to be able to get a return on that investment
Well, I'm gonna
themselves.
ignore all of them now.
Yeah, I do. I know all of them.
And, you know, we never pay Film Freeway for anything other than they get a percentage of what gets submitted, because that's just how the system works, right? But we don't do their advertising plans, we don't buy their list, we don't throw our logo on their weekly emails that go out. If you see our logo on there, it's because we have a deadline coming up, and they literally make a list with like 150 logos of approaching deadlines. You'll see us in that list, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But we don't pay for that. So, and the ones at the top of that list that are not in alphabetical order, those have been paid to be up there. So they are actively seeking large volumes of submissions, which means they're going to get a lot more submissions than they are ever going to screen.
Yeah. Very
And
predatory practices.
It's very predatory. We typically screen in excess of 80% of what gets submitted. And that ratio is probably going to slip to less than that at some point, because we have a limited number of screens, and as more submissions come in, it's all about timing, right? How much screen time you have. But yeah, there's so many predatory, I mean, it's, every filmmaker wants to get recognized. Something you said about getting that laurels from some place like in Bangkok and stuff like that. If you want to go to Bangkok, it's a great excuse to go,
Yeah.
right? But if you're
If they're
going,
playing it there.
if
it's one of
they're-
those- yeah, yeah.
if it's an in-person
It's
event.
person.
There's actually one in India I heard of that actually was amazing. Apparently it flies you there.
Oh, that,
Yeah.
that, oh,
So-
that's amazing.
So again, spending money to show your film and you not being there
Yeah.
is a waste of money.
Yes.
And we get a really good turnout as far as the number of filmmakers that submit that are actually here. And we got some extra bonuses across the street, right?
Just a few.
But
4-day pass.
yeah. But if you're not there to be in the room, so that you can meet each other, right?
Mhm.
I mean, how many filmmakers have you met?
Oh, a bunch,
Right.
yeah. And
Yeah.
all been wonderful, by the way. Yeah. All
The
great.
thing is, they're filmmakers.
Yeah.
We know each other, even if we haven't met each other,
Yeah.
because we've all been on sets with everybody, you know?
Mhm.
And if you show up to like our meet and greets and stuff, and you see people that are really palling it up like they've known each other for years, they literally probably met 3 hours ago. Okay? Don't feel like you're left out. Join in, because that's the community we try to build. And I've said this multiple times, I've been doing this for 16 years. If it was literally just me sitting in a dark room showing people's movies, for 16 years, I would not have done it. This is why we do it. We try to get as many people in the same room together, creative people in a room together, sit back and see what happens. I love that. I love when people come in and they submit a film, they show up, and it's a couple of filmmakers that had met literally in this room a couple of years prior that got together and made a film and brought it.
Yep, that's how
And-
you find your co-conspirators.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
And those people have resources. Those people are resources. So as you build your community, your network, you can raise each other's game up because you can bring extra knowledge, extra skill, and extra equipment to the game. And everybody's just keeps escalating quality after quality after quality. The equipment and the technology has gotten so good that if you know how to use it, you can make a Werner Herzog type film on a low budget today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about planning, that pre-production side, getting everything together. Talked about the catering. I was on a set where they had, one of the producers was a rock star. She just literally went to every restaurant in that area of town that we were shooting in and said, hey, we're shooting a film. And they're like, really? I said, around here, nobody shoots films. It doesn't work as well in LA.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
And, but it would work in Chicago. I know it would work in
Yeah, yeah.
Chicago. You go in, we're shooting a local film. We're gonna have a big social media following for this film. We already have it for the other films we've done. We're gonna do a shout out for each of our food sponsors for the day. Can you supply craft stuff for us for lunch on Wednesday?
Mhm.
And we ate like kings. It was almost distracting.
And everybody
You know,
came
you're
back to
sitting
that
there,
set.
you're sitting there shooting, everybody's stomachs are growling, right? Because it's about to getting up to lunchtime, and then you smell this pasta
Yeah.
coming in from, and like I say, it's kind of distracting. But it was so great, and it was 100% free, because we just gave them shout outs, and they were all wanting to help. And they all, of course, got into the credits. It is truly the thing you said, if you don't ask, you'll never get it. And if you ask, you've got a really reasonably chance that you will get it. Yes, you asked probably 50 restaurants, right?
Yeah.
And we got 7
Yeah.
for a week's shoot.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't eat pizza.
Yeah. Don't-
Well, actually, if we did, it was free, right?
At least it was free pizza.
At least
Yeah,
it was
there you
free.
go. There you go.
Actually, on the asking front or on the credit front, there's a newer thing that you can do now. There's a couple of things that I kind of want to put on everybody's radar. You can allow them to use some of the footage for their social media.
Yeah.
And product placement, guys.
Mhm.
I want to. I think this is a really important budget area that everybody's forgetting about. You don't need Procter and Gamble, okay? You need some mom and pop shops.
Yep.
You ask them how much room they have in their budget. If they're drinking, you know, like this coffee shop here, what, Naya Coffee? Like your main character's drinking Naya Coffee. That's it. And they're like, do you have room in their budget? Then maybe they throw you 1K.
You never know.
That's it. And we did that actually with the suit that's in our movie. We have a deal with the company that made the alien suit to go make a suit for the rest of the series. You know, but if you start thinking about that, because this isn't necessarily like, oh, evil product placement. This is putting more money
They're
into
gonna have a
production.
cup. They're gonna have a cup of
They're
coffee.
gonna have
on the
coffee
table
anyway. You might as well have something that has on it.
Right.
But ask mom and pop shops. Ask companies that aren't as high up there, because you're gonna be surprised.
Go through your script and see what items, I mean, you need to do this anyway for props, right? Make your list and say, well, okay, we're gonna have a coffee cup there, right? Okay, let's go find the local coffee shops.
Bump them. Yeah, and then
Why
let
not?
them use some of the footage, you
Maybe-
know?
And maybe they'll give you a couple of gallons of coffee to set out for the crew that day
On
too.
top of it, yeah. So there's all these things where, I mean, I know a producer that works out a deal where he gets a location like a hotel,
Right?
and he gets them to put in 40K, because they're also gonna have the premiere at the hotel. They're gonna bump this location because it's in a small town in Arizona. And they're gonna do some things to support that hotel that they're gonna use for the feature film. So they got 40K, and now they have this place for a premiere for a movie. So these are things that, as a producer, you want to put your brain in, because being flexible and figuring out how to get more money for the production is your main job, really. Besides, blowing up fires and stuff like that.
We're going to take questions from the audience here in just a second. I wanted to touch base on something you said earlier, that you were in Chicago and you weren't doing SAG, but you were actually going ahead and paying people
Yeah.
good rates, which is awesome.
At least for my first one.
Yeah.
I haven't since, but I'm working on it.
Well, one thing I wanted to point out, and it's something a lot of people don't think about, especially when they're first starting out, is SAG they've got some amazing talent in their roster. And no, it's not all people you recognize their faces, right? But I know the LA office is really focused on Hollywood and not on independent film.
Although I have the latest on that, actually, that there's something changing.
Are
As
they
a
getting
vertical
better at that?
microdrama. There's a huge uproar that's happening right now, actually.
Okay. The SAG Chicago office, which covers most of this part of the Midwest,
Okay.
they are awesome for independent film. Literally, I think it was 2-3 months ago, the head of the SAG office came to our Indiana Filmmakers Network meeting to walk people through what do you have to do to hire SAG actors, and if you are an actor that's wanting to become SAG eligible, what are those hoops you have to step through. I don't believe you would get that type of support from Chicago, or from LA
You
or
are
New York.
absolutely not gonna get that from
Yeah.
LA, although it might be
But
changing.
but Chicago, that office is phenomenal. So when you get to that
Yeah.
point,
Okay.
if we just reach out to them and sit down and have a chat with them, because you actually can with them, you wouldn't be able to do that everywhere.
Right.
Yeah,
And the cool thing is, if you're an actor, go to Chicago, get into the SAG there,
Mhm.
and once you've got the card, you can go back to New York or LA, and you're ready to roll.
So there is, at least I've been told this by some people, because my favorite actress to work with, she's SAG, but she has her contract with them or whatever makes it where she's allowed to do non-union awards.
she's FICOR. She's
Yeah,
FICOR.
yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's something to keep in mind too. Not all SAG people are able to do non-union.
Yeah, not all of them are
Like
FICOR.
technically, yeah. So FICOR.
FICOR.
FICOR, yeah. So keep that in mind, because there are some people that absolutely could do it, and it's awesome. Like she's the lead in the film I played, Elena Viss, and yeah, just that's something to keep in mind when it
Yeah.
comes to SAG.
That's something that's happening more right now because of the state of the union film industry in Los
Mhm.
Angeles. But the uproar that I was talking about is vertical microdrama. So if you don't know what vertical microdrama is, you will in a year. There is all sorts of stuff happening about it right now. It is basically indie feature length, but it's series. The structure is not feature series, it's a little different, but this has become its own kind of independent thing right now. And because of that, SAG and the WGA and the Directors Guild have all had to change some contracts to allow for these productions to continue, because there were people from those unions in those productions who were basically Alan Smithing it, you know, because we needed the work,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
All right, questions?
When it comes to releases of any kind, are there like resources to find like the legal work? Do you ask a lawyer to write something up?
You want to find an attorney that specializes
You
in
have to
entertainment law.
entertainment
Okay.
attorney. However, Studio Binder has some templates. I'm trying to think just off the top of my head what other Film Independent, I believe, has some templates. There are organizations, independent film organizations, that do have templates that you can utilize and modify.
What I would do today is if you're looking for that type of an attorney. And I do recommend you actually get an attorney rather than use templates. Templates are great.
They are, but you have
But
to look.
if you need to have an attorney in your legal jurisdiction,
Yes.
write it. Because, and they won't touch the template because that's somebody
No, they
else's work.
don't, they don't, yeah.
But it has to meet your state law, or it's not worth the paper it's written on. So what I would do, I would go to Claude or ChatGPT and say, give me a list of entertainment attorneys in my area and give me some rankings on them. And then follow up on that and research them. Unless you have somebody that can give you a recommendation, that's where I would start. I would just get into a chat
Yeah.
and start.
Releases are a little bit more boilerplate than
Yeah,
film
releases are much more
contracts.
boilerplate.
Contracts are the ones that are always specific to the production, to what's happening.
Yeah.
And the major things in a contract you want to make sure is that you guys aren't going to end up in a lawsuit type situation, although it still happens. And that you have, and I especially say this if you're going to do anything like a feature film, please build in something like points in the back end for the people if they're not getting paid the full amount, so that, you know, if something like Obsession happens, you're gonna go back and pay those people. That is kind of highlighted that for everybody. I know with my contracts, we did it one way, and then if we're getting money from a distribution, I'm going back to you guys and I'm doing a new contract. We're gonna negotiate again, so that you can have that, or build in something which is called points, which is percentages if you make your money back. But it's very helpful to talk to an entertainment lawyer, because then they're gonna tell you that stuff. But Black Magic Collective, the Camera and Da Vinci Program Company, they do free workshops. And in those free workshops, they have an Ask Anything entertainment lawyer.
Awesome.
And he will likely give you his email address, and then you'll have a direct contact. And if he knows somebody out of state, he will say, hey, this is how you contact an entertainment lawyer in your state. But Black Magic Collective is a fantastic resource for independent filmmakers. They do free workshops. It costs nothing to join, and a lot of those workshops are online.
Cool. Awesome. Other questions? Yes?
So I already know you, but just meeting you, what are the types of films that you're most interested in producing, and how long did it take you to kind of zoom in on those, or are you kind of expansive?
I know we're strict on time here, but I'm really interested in horror or sci-fi. But my feature that I'm writing is drama, depressing, bleak drama, kind of. It's not gonna be that bleak, but yeah. So that's what and that's something that I think is very realistic pertaining to how I'm gonna produce it. Because like something like a drama, I think the one I'm thinking of, I could probably do for like, honestly, if I had like 15K, I know I can do it. I'm very lean filmmaking is something that I practice, and that's something that if anybody's interested, I can talk about after. But yeah.
I love sci-fi and fantasy. I do art house drama, and I also specialize in comedy. I love to insert comedy into whatever what's playing in the next couple hours is sci-fi comedy. I love that genre. I love Back to the Future. I love those things. But I think as far as producing goes, I definitely want to live in the genre world, because I can only do so many of those. I have a feature that I'm going to direct that is like that takes so much out of you. Mm-hmm. But there are producers who love that. And by the way, you know, that's where networking is fantastic, is finding producers who will fit you, who you can talk to.
All right. We are at time, so want to thank our panelists. And your film is showing this
At 1
afternoon
o'clock.
At 1 o'clock in the sold-out science fiction short film block. If you don't have a ticket for that, go ahead and show up. We will have some extra seating available, I'm sure. So,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.